All right, hello and welcome to the Oasis 13. It's your host, Minnie Money. All right, and we back with another podcast episode. And today I have a very special guest and a very exciting topic about Ifa tradition, okay, Ifa religion, Ifa spirituality, whatever how you want to say it. Um, and we are here today with Iya, who I'm going to be, talking about this with today. And so, hey Iya, how are you?
How you doing? I'm doing good. Doing real good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So Iya, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us your background, whatever you want the people to know.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am an Ianifa in the tradition of Ifa. I will be a 6-year-old priest next month. I'm a priest of Ifa and a priest of the Orisha Oshun, a priest of Obatala. Before I got into the tradition of Ifa, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. And I know you're all thinking, what? Yeah, I'm about as far away from that as you can possibly get.
Mm-hmm.
But this is definitely where I'm supposed to be. This was what resonated with my spirit when I started studying about Ifa, and I'm at home. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a godmother, I'm a sister, all the things. But most importantly, I'm a person, and I'm very grateful for this work that I've been called to do.
Mm. Okay. So from a Jehovah's Witness to Ifa tradition,
Mhm.
how did you come about Ifa and why were you so gravitated towards it?
Um, Try to make this long story short as I can.
Mm-hmm.
My mother transitioned in 2009. And so prior to that time frame, I was very focused on how I was going to get through the process because who knows what it's like to lose their mother? Who's
Mm-hmm.
prepared for that?
Right.
So I was very overwhelmed emotionally with what was going to happen in my life and happen to me. So I was reaching out for different things, trying to find something to help me to grasp hold of what I knew was imminent.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a meditation retreat for 10 days where I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't talk. And I was just in a space of being trying to pull myself inward. One of my friends was speaking to me about this tradition because he had gotten a reading, a
Mm-hmm.
divination from one of the Babalaos in the tradition of Ifa, and
Mm-hmm.
talked to me about what was happening. And, it sounded interesting to me. So I was like, I'm looking, I'm searching, let me go see what it's about. I don't have anything to lose. I was a little scared because it's very different from Jehovah's Witnesses.
Right.
Spirituality in itself is a whole different verbiage that I'm not used to. So that kind of made me a little uncomfortable, but I
Mm-hmm.
went anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I got the divination, and partway through the divination, the Babalawo spoke about ancestors. And having just had my mother transition, that I was like, what is that? So
Right.
we talked about ancestors and the fact that I could communicate with my mother, even though she was no longer in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
I was sold,
Mm-hmm.
hook, line, and sinker.
Right.
That was it for me.
Right.
That was what got me into Ifa, and
Mm.
that was in 2010. I started to study,
Mm-hmm.
and then I stepped into it in 2011, and I've
Okay.
been. It'll be 10 years for me in October.
Mm. Okay. Um. Okay. So, what was your others? Because you do have children. Um. And
Yes.
your other family. What was their reaction when you was like, I'm studying this now.
Well, as you can imagine, first of all, I was always considered the black sheep of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So, in some respects, it didn't surprise anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But also, when they saw me wearing white all the time,
Mm.
they were like, "What are you doing?
Right.
Who are these people you hanging out with?
Right.
What's happening?" And so they kind of got used to me because I was doing a lot more studying about spirituality and I was going to different meetings and things. So they got comfortable with it from after a while because it just was what I was doing. And they knew
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do it because this is how I roll with things. Okay.
Right.
Um, I did get a little nervous little bit of back back backlash from one of my family members because he spoke that it was dark. And so I never really talk anymore about this tradition to that person just because they're not supportive of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I see no need to do that because I'm going to do this regardless because it resonates with me.
Right.
So again, just because of, like I said, how my family viewed me from the past, they weren't
It wasn't a
surprised,
surprise. Right.
but they were curious about what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if they have questions, we have conversations. We talk about this and that and who's this and who's that and what you believe. I'm not afraid to talk about what I'm doing, but because I don't hide what I am and who I am.
Right.
You know.
Has
So it's a
anybody
done deal.
Okay. Has anybody else in your family started practicing it or got more into it because you're into it?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
After me, the man that I was dating ended up getting his hand of Ifa. It's
Mm-hmm.
called Ishefa.
Mm-hmm.
He got his hand of Ifa. One of my sons has his Ishefa. And I have two brothers and a sister.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my brothers and my sister have gotten divinations done in the past.
Okay.
So it's really branched out to my family members just because I started to study
Right.
and step into Ifa.
Right.
It's been pretty far reaching.
Okay. And so you said one family member said that he thought it was dark, right?
Yes.
As in like evil.
Yes.
Okay. So, and he not the only one. It's a lot of people who feel like any type of African spirituality, such as the Ifa, voodoo, what is it like? The Spanish ones of it. What are they called?
Lukumi and Santeria.
Lukami, Santeria. People think that these are evil because it's unknown. So
Yes.
explain.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you couldn't explain their perspective of why they think that it was evil, but explain, I guess, some of the unknown things in it that people see as evil.
Anything dealing with spirituality, people get afraid of that and they shut
Mm-hmm.
down.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not talking about Christianity or the major known religions or spiritual systems,
Mm-hmm.
anything dealing with Africa, spirituality, Black,
Right.
okay, people have a fear of that
Mm-hmm.
because we're feared.
Mm-hmm.
We're feared. So anything dealing with us is looked upon as being negative or scary or the devil.
Mm-hmm.
You know how everything is equated with Black is negative, Black is the devil.
Right.
It's the same mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And the media hypes it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever we see on television and in movies, people doing witchcraft and blood being poured all over places and different
Right.
things that are scary in nature,
Right.
they pour that into spiritual systems.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are afraid of that.
Yeah.
So if you believe in the things that you don't understand, that makes you afraid of them,
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to really step out of them and to like understand or speak to someone who's in the system or do research to find out what you think you should be afraid of, it makes it hard.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to just be like, I'm good.
Right.
It's easy to do that.
Right.
People miss out on a lot of things by being afraid though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I do think it was this, I think Kendrick Lamar said, he was like, he don't know if he really believe in Christianity or something, but he just want to believe in it just in case there is a heaven and hell. So if, there is a heaven, he go to heaven. But it's just like, so
Wow.
I'm saying like a lot of people are so fear-based in their beliefs. Like they don't necessarily believe that, but it's just like, but they feel like they have to because they're scared
Mm-hmm.
of what they don't know,
It's like I got to pick something because
Mm-hmm.
I can't not have something under my belt. I can't just be out here.
Right.
So they gravitate towards what maybe was passed along in their family from generation to generation to generation. If it was good for my grandmother and my mom and my dad, it's good enough for me.
Right.
But we're in a different time. The world is different for us. And most importantly, we have our own mind.
Right.
If something doesn't make logical sense to me, I can't just follow that. That's why I left the witnesses. There were questions that were not being answered.
Right.
And no one was trying to answer them. And I'm a person that likes to ask questions. I want to know.
Right.
So I can't be satisfied with that. Just be quiet, or just go read this, or just go away. That didn't, too many times of that, it just got to be too much for me. So a logical mind would have you thinking the world we live in, the things that are happening, what you feel inwardly would provoke you to want to do something more. To not just be a yes man, or just to be like, I'm good because my family won that. And it just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for a lot of people, a lot of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I started looking into it, is because, I went away from Christianity, studied a lot of different things. And I would say this is the one so far that I feel like I relate the most to. And so, I'm just studying, learning more about it and seeing what it is. But I can understand where people come from, because it is like, it's not as structured as if you're coming from something like Christianity. Whereas, because again, and that's the thing, because Christianity doesn't allow you to think for yourself, right? It's just like, this is what it is. This is what you do. This is why you do it, right? It doesn't have you ask all those questions. Just like, this is how you do it. This is the way, right? But in this tradition, it's more like, and just again, I'm a beginner, so, but just like, there are morals and I guess a base belief and principle or principles, but I feel like it's more so you kind of have to go with what you feel on a lot of things, as opposed to it saying this
Absolutely.
is right or wrong.
Absolutely. And that's because you cannot put spirit in a box. And so organized religion oftentimes is trying to, like you said, is very regimented. It's got to be
Right.
this way. It's got to look
Right.
like that. Spirituality is not like that.
Right.
So it makes a difference. It's a big difference in that. It's like night and day, really. And so a lot of people are tired of the confinement, or just don't want to be held down and just being told every step of the way what they can and cannot do in their life.
Right.
We're not in slavery anymore
Right.
in a physical sense, but some people are still in slavery mentally, and so they haven't let go of that yet. And it's sad to see it, but it's still very it's still like the shackles are still on a lot of people, and they know it, and some people are okay with that, and that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sad thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So okay. So I want to talk about the video that I told you to watch. So I asked Ia to watch this video with Nipsey Hussle's mom at Nipsey Hussle's passing away ceremony. And basically she explained, I'm gonna put the link in the description, but basically she was doing practices related to Ifa, the Ifa tradition, um, such as calling on ancestors, pouring libations, and she was doing this again at his ceremony. And so I wanted to get and some of the comments. So some of the comments in the comment box were like, she on this evil stuff, this woman is crazy, she's a witch, she on them demonic spirits. So that was one half, and then there was another half of just like, if you think that this is evil, then you just don't understand, or you need to open your mind, or what she is doing is a part of our history, so why y'all so scared? So basically those were the two overall outlooks on her video. So
Right.
yeah, I wanted to get your perspective of what you thought about her doing that.
There's several thoughts that came to me watching the video.
Mhm.
I was very surprised, to be honest, that
Mhm.
she was so out in the open,
Mhm.
because a lot of people, especially starting out
Mhm.
in spiritual systems, whichever one it may be, because I think
Mhm.
hers was not EFI, it was something else. I think she called it Crest, something of that nature. It wasn't
Oh yeah,
EFI.
that's the church. That's the church that she goes to.
Okay.
The yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm not real familiar with all of what she was saying, but the basics, she was honoring the ancestors, her
Mhm.
ancestor, her blood lineage, the people who came
Mhm.
before her,
Mhm.
because of her son's transition. That is appropriate to do, because
Mhm.
they came before us.
Mhm.
They got us here.
Mhm.
They made the sacrifices to get us here. So we revere them and honor them. We should, in everything that we do, because without them there'd be no us. And so her
Mhm.
pouring libation is giving thanks, showing honor to the ancestors. And Ifa is very ancestral based, very,
Mhm.
very ancestral based.
Mhm.
Ceremonies include ancestors. We pray, we pour libation,
Mhm.
we give thanks and honor to our ancestors whenever we do work.
Okay.
So I thought that was very remarkable of her to use such a large platform with thousands of people watching her to give
Mhm.
honor to our ancestors. Looking into the
Mhm.
crowd, you can see some people weren't feeling it. They
Mhm.
were looking at her like, "What are you doing, sis?" But there were some people applauding her and really like, "Yeah, like do the
Yeah.
thing."
Yeah.
So I was, taken aback, but I
Mhm.
was very supportive of her trying to support what she was learning.
Right.
It resonates with her.
Right.
She's attaching to her what she felt, especially at a time of such trauma in her life.
Mhm.
Her ancestors apparently were reaching out. She was reaching out to them. She's honoring that,
Mhm.
and it was a very appropriate thing to do. It's very
Mhm.
appropriate thing to do. So I thought it was, very well. She did the best she could since she's new, but she was well spoken and it was
Mhm.
sincere.
Right.
That's the
Right.
thing that meant the most. It was sincere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very surprising though, because you don't see that in the media.
Nah,
You
not
don't
in
see people
mainstream. Not in no
expressing
mainstream.
spiritual.
Yeah.
No, it's like shh, shh, shh,
Right.
but not overall in the mainstream.
Right. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would say like she's the only besides I think Iyanla has said something about it. She mentioned it one time, but she doesn't really speak about it. And then, you know, Beyonce will show symbolism of it, but again, we don't really know what she practices. So in the mainstream, I
Mhm.
think she's the only one who actually came out and was like, yo, I'm really like studying this. I'm really, into this as far as I know. Um, and so yeah, that I really like you said, I applaud her for that too, because that was dope, I thought. And okay, so something that what the majority of Christians, most Christians will say is that ancestor worship is evil. Um, well, okay. So let me just speak off of a specific thing. So it's funny because recently I've been having a lot of like Christians come to me, not trying, and it's just like why, like that. Okay, so but it wasn't on a negative way because I feel like some Christians can be like, oh, you have to believe this, you have to, or you're going to hell. No. It was like they would just come to
Mhm.
me, we would have a conversation, they would tell their thoughts, and I would just honestly listen. And what a lot of them feel like is the that spiritual work is demonic because you don't know what you're getting into and what kind of spirits you're calling in, right? And then also
Mhm.
I was told that specific ancestor worship is demonic or evil, and then also crystal worship is demonic or evil. So let's start with ancestor. worship. And let's get into like spiritual, like the things that we don't know, which is spirituality, like spirits and all this, because how do you know when how do you ensure that when you are calling on these spirits that because all of our ancestors are not good spirits. So how do you know when you're calling on these spirits that you're doing it in a correct, I don't know, talk about like ancestor worship and how to make sure you're doing it in the right way, because a lot of people are getting into it but they don't really know what they're doing. So then when they get into it and they get back out of it, they're like, oh my god, this is evil, I had so many negative things happen to me, don't do it. So how do you ensure that you do it the right way?
Well, one thing that's important, and you mentioned Imani, they don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't start calling upon energies and you don't have a clue as to what you're doing.
Right.
So one of the best things to do, especially when you're in a spiritual system, like anything,
Mm-hmm.
you have to have guidance, someone who knows what to do or can show you. It's like that with anything. You can't go out there and start building a car and you don't know anything about automobiles or
Right.
being a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be guidance to do this type of work,
Mm-hmm.
because just like everything in life, there's the positive and then there's the not so positive.
Right.
Okay. That's just
Right.
life
Right.
across the board. So the same thing is true with spirit and with ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
So with ancestors reverence,
Mm-hmm.
when you set up an altar, which is a space in your home that you
Mm-hmm.
have that's dedicated to honoring your ancestors, okay,
Mm-hmm.
your blood ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
the space should be called to be for a place for just all your ancestors, because as you spoke, they weren't people.
Mm-hmm.
Space, you want to just have the positive energy of those who can uplift you and who can support you while you're here, that can bring that energy forward.
Mm-hmm.
You want to call those people. Okay. So the ancestral space lends itself to that by the things that are put on it and by
Mm-hmm.
the prayers and things that are spoken and the things that you do with the altar, because it's a relationship that you're building. It's an
Right.
intimate relationship you're building with those who are now in the spirit realm,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not that they don't exist,
Mm-hmm.
but they pretty much like zipped their physical shell, their jacket off.
Right.
They no longer need that physical jacket. And so spirit never dies.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who's ever been in school knows from science, spirit just transforms or changes its form. It doesn't die, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our ancestors are still here. They're just in a spirit form.
Mm-hmm.
So most of them are waiting for us like, hey, did you forget about us?
Right.
We here, where you at?
Right.
It's
Right.
one of
Right.
those. And so when you go to the process of learning how to set up an altar and go to your ancestors, then you understand how to do it appropriately. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be out here willy-nilly going to the internet,
Right.
looking up stuff
Right.
and getting some information that's going to have you hemmed up in a bad way. There's especially on a spiritual aspect. So you have to be very careful with who you are going to for support and leadership and instruction with spiritual matters. It's critically important. A lot of things can happen that are pretty unsavory if you don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
People are quick to diluting back to what you were saying about evil.
Mm-hmm.
How can the people who this is what I said. How can the people whose blood runs through your veins, they were not all bad people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But and I don't mean to disrespect anyone. I
Right.
really don't.
Right.
But for the point of sharing a different perspective, in organized religion,
Mm-hmm.
we were all forced to take a religion that it was not ours, our ancestors. We were forced by or punishable by death or whipping or
Mm-hmm.
something or lynching to
Mm-hmm.
take this religion that was not ours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We were forced to believe in a man who doesn't look like us, with hair that doesn't look like ours, with eyes that are not like most of ours.
Right.
Okay. But we will honor him, put pictures of him up in our house, get down on our knees to this man and call his name. But you can't call an ancestor who you saw in real life, who used to
Mm-hmm.
do your hair, who used to cook for you, who used to
Mm-hmm.
wash you up.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make logical sense?
Right.
That is the part to me that I cannot stomach that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Your
Right.
ancestors did those things. We knew these people.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know Jesus, but we're told Come on now, think, people. Let's think here.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. And again goes just back to like just just thinking like having, and again not to be like not to sound rude, but just think what makes sense. Like, and again, so a lot of the things that a lot of these mainstream religions call evil is, I feel like it's a lot of similarities. They do a lot of the same things, it's just in a different way. And
Hmm.
so talk to me, do you see any similarities between, you're more associated with Jehovah's Witness. I'm not sure if you really studied Christianity or not, but or any other mainstream organized religion. Do you see any similarities between those and the Ifa tradition?
You went out for a minute. You said similarities, and then you went out. I didn't hear what you said.
Yes. So do you see any similarities between any of the mainstream religions or most of the mainstream religions, because they basically the same, and Ifa tradition?
Any similarities between those and Ifa?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Some of the basics tenets of this tradition, spiritual system, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, and the like. The common thread that I've seen and the witnesses is the facets of the laws of the spiritual system or religion, the Ten Commandments, the 16 truths of Ifa, the laws
Mm-hmm.
of Kemet.
Mm-hmm.
That's a common thread throughout,
Mm-hmm.
because all the systems are based on being good people,
Right.
loving each other,
Mm-hmm.
being kind to each other, loving
Mm-hmm.
God,
Mm-hmm.
honoring their neighbor, all those basic things. That's
Mm-hmm.
a common thread throughout. So that's the similarity that I see.
Mm-hmm.
There's a God that's known by many different names.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some of the similarities. Good being of good character
Right.
is a common thread. It's
Right.
it's and it's in text, but it's not always shown. It's not always shown, but
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the characters, one of the facets of all the religions and all the spiritual systems. They're
Right.
very basic in their the breakdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot of the same
Yeah.
basic principles. And so before I like show some of the similarities, because there was this article that was really in depth and pointed out directly some of the similarities between specifically Christianity and Ifa. And so I want to read those off. But before we get into that, can you tell us, so what are the basic principles or morals or standards that Ifa follows?
Ifa is the study of nature. Ifa, good character. That's a very important in this tradition of Ifa. Just like most systems, like I just mentioned, there's a God known by the name of Olodumare in this
Mm-hmm.
tradition.
Mm-hmm.
There are Orishas. There are mediators between mankind and God. They're called Orisha. There's the Ori, which is your
Mm-hmm.
head.
Mm-hmm.
This is where your destiny comes from, the knower of your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very critical part of this tradition, because we're here to find out what we came here for. What did we
Mm-hmm.
come here to do?
Mm-hmm.
What is our destiny? That is the basic tenet of Ifa, and we're
Mm-hmm.
on the quest to find out what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Ancestor reverence is a very, very big part of this tradition. Again, getting along with your neighbor, uh, surviving and taking care of your environment, listening to nature speak to you, all of that is part of this tradition. It's
Mm-hmm.
all part of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
all interwoven. It's all
Mm-hmm.
interwoven,
Mm-hmm.
and all pieces make a complete puzzle. So
Right.
there's several pieces, but they all make the complete the puzzle. That's you.
Mm-hmm.
Ifa is a tool that is utilized to help you navigate through life to
Mm-hmm.
get to your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I love that. I love how you explain that, because again, that's one of the reasons why I was so gravitated towards it, because it's not like it's not like a thing where it's like an end all be all and like you have to, do this or be this, but it is like a set of morals or principles that you can follow to help you to get to a certain destination, right? But it's not like, well, you got to do this. Um, so that, and again, one of the, again, so like the fact that it is associated with like nature and again, like talking to ancestors, which I love because the whole like after you die you're just gone, that doesn't make sense to me either, because that's just, we're just, our physical body is just, that is just a physical body, but we're so much more than that. So why wouldn't we be able to exist beyond this physical body? um
Mhm.
so yeah, that's something that I also resonated with. And yeah, so I did want to point out, okay, and also before I get into that, do so how does, in the tradition, how do people feel about people practicing other religions simultaneously? Because I see that as also a common thing of where there are, or I would watch videos of people who practice one religion during the day, I guess, and you say they like to keep the other one, more secret. And they'll practice that at night, or even if they don't keep it more secret, they'll practice them simultaneously. So, how does Ifa feel about that?
In this tradition, we all have free will.
Mm-hmm.
God is not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So some people still are Christian, practice Christianity, and they also practice Ifa. Ifa is a tool, it's something additional that you can add to help you to navigate through, to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what you want to do and how to get to your destination in life.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the end all to be all for everyone. Some
Mm-hmm.
people need more than Ifa.
Mm-hmm.
Some people need other things. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not either or. Some people may feel like I just need Ifa and I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a personal decision. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like if you are Muslim, you can't be an Ifa. It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing. It's nothing like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just this is something additional to
Right.
what you have, and you can utilize it in conjunction with. It doesn't have to be an either or.
Right.
It's just for me, in my experience and in what resonates with me. This
Mm-hmm.
is it.
Right.
This is it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nothing else feeds my spirit. This the way
Mm-hmm.
that Ifa does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, and okay. So let me pull up this article. So if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you will see that I have posted this for y'all to check out. But let me pull it up because she makes some good points in this article. All right. And a lot of the things that other religions would call evil is they also do. It's just in a different way. So,
Mm-hmm.
so let's just focus on Christianity right now because that's what I'm most familiar with and that's one of the most popular. So,
Mm-hmm.
in the way that she presents it is just in questions. Okay, so just listen to the questions and then take the information in. So she says, "Are prayers not chants? Isn't the whole book of Psalms a collection of invocations? Are some prayers not curses? Anybody skip that part. So isn't baptism a water ritual? Isn't the powder we get on our foreheads on Ash Wednesday face adornment slash paint? And what is a Holy Communion if not the symbolic feasting of flesh and blood? Why is it cute when Catholics do it on Sunday, but when it is presented as a thing in Ifa, it is barbaric and demonic? Are Orishas not similar to saints or prophets? Let's see. Do Christians not consult prophets to see what could be, as Ifa practitioners consult the oracle? Isn't paying tithes making literal offerings to God? What are the altars we Christians create as holy grounds in our homes? Aren't those also how altars are used in Ifa? So it's just like, and there's more questions that she has up there. But again, if you follow me on social media, um, go ahead and check that out because I also have it posted in the description below. But like, it's a lot of the same things. Um,
Exactly.
just
It is.
just different. And like again, the base is the same. It's just that one is whitewashed and one is not. And
Right.
so, and there's nothing wrong with, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong. There are there are some things wrong with Christianity as far as like not allowing you to think for yourself, but I think the base of Christianity, there is nothing wrong with it. The way that people interpret it some of the times is a problem. But I think the base, and if you're able to really take out the meat, I don't even want to say that, the sustenance of the message, is nothing wrong with it, right? But it's just in a different way. And so the fact that some people demonize one and not the other, it's just like, why? When it's the same practices, when you get it to the at the end of the day. So why? So just
It's,
taking those questions, you know. Go ahead,
it's very
you.
hypocritical. It's very hypocritical.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's very hypocritical. It's the same thing. It's looking in the mirror.
Mhm.
This one's acceptable. This is the same thing, but for some
Mhm.
reason this is not.
Mhm.
That's just completely hypocritical.
Right.
It's
And again,
that's
why?
what that
Because
is.
it's from us. Because it's mostly African based. Like, is
It
that
has a
why?
lot to do with it.
Right.
I mean, that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that was mentioned in those questions you were speaking, it speaks about there's so many things that people do that are ritualistic that they don't
Mhm.
want to call it a ritual because
Mhm.
then I'm going to hell or then I'm doing
Right.
something bad.
Right.
You go to church every Sunday.
Mhm.
That's a ritual.
Mhm.
You go to church every Sunday at the same time every week, every
Mhm.
month for the whole year. That's not a ritual. That's a
Mhm.
ritual.
Mhm.
But don't call it a ritual. No, I'm just going to church. It's a ritual. Same
Mhm.
thing. It's
Mhm.
being called something different. One word is frightening, and the other word is, well, that's what it is. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
But it's the perception and it's the fear that we have that is very paralyzing. It will
Right.
hinder you and freeze you in your tracks if you let it.
Right.
If you let it. And a
Mhm.
lot of people are afraid because of what they've been told. You're going to hell.
Mhm.
This is going to happen to you. You're going to burn in the hellfire. You this, you that. This is going to happen to you if you do this,
Mhm.
that, or the other. So it's a control mechanism,
Right.
and that's what people are afraid of. So they
Right.
have to stay inside the guidelines or the box,
Right.
or otherwise they're going to be sent to a place that they don't want to go. So they do it out of fear.
Mhm.
Fear tactics are very effective,
Mhm.
and a lot of people are still living in fear, which is why a lot of people are still where they are.
Right. 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 Yes. 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 And so, because Ifa tradition is more African based, and that's where it originated, what kind of things were like had to be changed, because when we practice it here in America, like, people play the whole telephone game, some things may get lost in translation. So how you're doing it right, and is there a right way to do it, or is it just you follow what you feel with some of the things?
There's Well, when you start getting to the right and wrong using those words,
Yeah.
that's a whole situation. There's more than one way to skin a cat. There's
Okay.
more than one way to fix spaghetti,
Right.
right? There's more than one way to fix a pot of greens. That's what
Mhm.
it's like.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be only this way or only that way.
Right.
There's many different ways to do something to get to the same end result.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so you have traditional and then you have non-traditional. And then you
Mhm.
have a combination, a jambalaya, where there a little bit of this is pulled from here and a little bit of that's pulled from here, and it's merged together and it works. So that's the crux of the matter. Is it working? Are you having success with what you're doing?
Mhm.
In the West here, we speak English.
Right.
On the continent, they speak English, but that's not their first language.
Right.
So their understanding of things and our understanding of things are going to be different just from that fact alone.
Right.
We don't speak tradition, we speak English.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We don't have access to the same plants, animals, minerals, and things that they have on the continent. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we can get a lot of them, but
Mm-hmm.
some things we just don't have access to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like when you're making a recipe, when you're looking for, you need something specific and you don't have that, but I got this.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to do the same thing. So
Mm-hmm.
use the substitute.
Mm-hmm.
Use what you have. That's what it is. We don't have the exact same thing that there may be in Africa or Nigeria specifically to do the work sometimes, but we have things here that we can use that'll get the job done just as efficiently and effectively.
Right.
And so it's not getting caught up in the, well, that's wrong. This is
Right.
right. It's got to
Right.
be this way. Don't get me wrong. There are
Mm-hmm.
some things that need to be done a certain way. That's
Mm-hmm.
just with everything. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's not so finite where it's like you have to be speaking traditional language or else your prayers are not going to be heard. The
Yeah.
last time I checked, my prayers were answered and I'm
Mm-hmm.
speaking in English,
Mm-hmm.
So not getting caught up in all that because then
Mm-hmm.
you're just going around in confusion
Mm-hmm.
for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody was interested in practicing it or simply learning more about it, where should they start with the information?
Um, well, with me, I started reading.
Mm-hmm.
I started to read. The internet can be very misleading and very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of spiritual predators
Right.
lurking, looking for
Right.
people who are vulnerable and who are searching, really sincerely searching. So, internet surfing is not really the best way to find someone to help you with your spiritual practice. I
Mm-hmm.
started by reading books, and then someone that I knew was looking into Ifa.
Right.
And so after hearing about it from that person who I trusted,
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go on and piggyback off of them because I trust them. They're
Mm-hmm.
not getting involved in no foolishness. So that's
Mm-hmm.
how I was introduced to Ifa.
Okay.
So if you know someone reputable or someone that you can trust that has had a good experience that can refer you to someone, that's a good way to start.
Okay.
For those of you who have believe in your ancestors and communicate with them and get messages, tell your ancestors about that. Tell them what you're looking for. Speak to them about
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll send the information. They'll send the connection, the person or persons to you.
Right.
Utilize that.
Mm-hmm.
Utilize that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, you have access to people, persons who can help that have helped you. So you're
Right.
also a source of information for those who may want someone to refer them.
Yeah.
But you want to try to do it safely in a
Mm-hmm.
safe way because there's a lot of danger
Yeah.
lurking. If you're not careful, you can get caught up in it very easily.
Yeah, I can speak to my own experience of when I started looking into it or studying it. First, I did start on YouTube because honestly, that's where I go for everything, to be honest.
Mhm.
So
Right.
I started on YouTube, and there was just some lady that I found who was talking about it. And then, but like I want a more in person or a more direct connection. So then I started looking for things in Virginia, which is where I'm located, and that is how I got in contact with Ia. And so I don't know if you guys are still doing no.
Mhm.
Okay. So um I know there's a place in Richmond, I believe. You know what? I'm gonna drop some links for specific places in Virginia. But if you're not in Virginia, you just wanna like she said, I guess just look for people outside of the internet, somebody you can connect with like in person, because that's when you can really read people's energies, and you can would be able to decipher from there, like is it real or not. But before like you start getting connected with people, what books would you recommend for people?
Um, there's a book. This is a good book that's to start with. This is a book that I read.
Mm-hmm.
This book here. This is a good book. It's a very basic book. It
Mm-hmm.
speaks on several different topics in Ifa,
Mm-hmm.
from God to Orisha to
Mm-hmm.
ancestors to some of the basics that are part of this tradition.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Yoruba Religion Introduction to Its Practices by Conrad Mauge.
Mm-hmm.
This is on Amazon. They do sell this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can also, you know, provide my email,
Okay.
just people that may, to someone that may want it, if they need the reference, if they just,
Mm-hmm.
want to have it to ask questions or, something like that,
Right. Just
you can do that
curious.
too.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so Ia's email will be in the description, like she said, just if you're curious or you honestly have questions about it, because it is kind of nerve-wracking getting into something that you don't really know. So so I appreciate that. Thank you for providing that.
Sure.
Um,
Absolutely.
Let me see what else we got. So can you go over again, like what the different names and what they mean? So we call you Ia, and then there's Orishas, and then there's Babalawos. What is all of that, and what does it mean?
Um, those are titles.
Mm-hmm.
Ia, like my title, I'm Ia Nifa. Ia is for short. And that just means it's a female priest of Ifa.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it means.
Okay.
Okay. Or mother. Ia means mother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and then the Babalao is the priest of Ifa. That's a male title.
Mm-hmm.
Keeper of secrets. The father is the keeper of the secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you have the Orisha names, which is a name that's given once you become initiated into a priesthood for the Orisha. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a specific name that the Orisha gives to you
Mm-hmm.
based upon your initiation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Babalao is father of secrets.
Okay.
Ianifa, and which is also father of secrets. And then you have Ianifa, which is the female, is the mother of
Version.
secrets.
Okay.
So it's a female
Mm-hmm.
priest of Ifa.
Okay.
I want to say that clear because that was all jumbled up. Okay, let me say it again. Babalao, Babalao is the father or priest of Ifa.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, Baba means father. So Babalao is the priest of Ifa for a male.
Mm-hmm.
Ianifa means Iya. So that's the female priest of Ifa. Iya means
Mm-hmm.
mother.
Mm-hmm.
And then you asked about the Orisha names.
Mm-hmm.
The Orisha names are given to people who are initiated into a priesthood in a relationship with an Orisha. They're giving a name by that Orisha from the from the from that Orisha. They give a name to the person.
So how do you get a
So my
name from or why would you get a name? Like, why would you go through that process, or how does that process happen?
Orisha,
Yeah.
that is something that everyone is not called to priesthood. It just
Mm-hmm.
depends on, as we talked about at the beginning, about your destiny. What is in your
Mm-hmm.
destiny? What's in your path? So
Mm-hmm.
some are called to priesthood
Mm-hmm.
to do, but that's just something that you receive. If you are called to priesthood, then you are given a name by that Orisha. That's
Okay.
divined upon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
it's another path of spiritual elevation
Mm-hmm.
that some people need for different reasons in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So let me tell y'all, my experience of how, I'm doing this interview with EI, and then my experience with studying EFI and getting into it. So I told y'all a little bit, but I'm gonna go into depth. So, like I said, I started off on YouTube, kind of researching, and then I found something online where they had something specific in Virginia, but it was currently they were only doing Zoom meetings at the time, and that's how I got connected with Ia. And then from there, I got to meet Ia in person because I got a reading done. Um, and what are those readings kind of called? They're just readings, right? Just regular readings. Yeah.
It's an Ifa divination.
Okay. So it was an Ifa divination.
Yeah, it's a Ifa divination.
Okay. So it was an Ifa divination. And basically, she kind of, and Iya also uses numerology with her Ifa divinations, but she kind of told me where I was at in my life, and then kind of what is coming for me, and like just things to, kind of just like things to look out for to make sure that I'm being cognizant of and aware of within myself and, my surroundings, and associating that with Ifa and numerology. And so, and I thought it was really interesting. It was my first reading ever kind of reading. And yeah, it was good. It was a really good experience. And then from there, Ia was like, she was very helpful. Again, she recommended that book to me that she shared, and then also another book. And you know so I am, I don't know. Eva was just has been really helpful. I also have life going on, so I haven't been as um, on it as I should. But I know that if I ever, need a contact, or if I ever have more questions, such as I do, because y'all know I always got questions, she is going to be there to, answer them. So, my experience so far with studying it has been good. I even asked her how to set up an ancestor altar, because she said my ancestor. Can I share this? Can I share some things that she said in my reading, or should I not do that?
That's your information. That's up to you.
Okay, it's nothing specific. She just said my ancestors were like really connected to me, and so they were looking out for me or whatever. So, and I was saying, how I felt that. I don't know. I've always kind of felt that. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm finally ready to set up an altar for that. And she gave me, again, which is really helpful, she gave me instructions on how to do that when I'm ready. And so my experience so far has been good. Again, I think it's all about perspective, because if you go into it with fear, of, oh my God, I'm
Mhm.
so scared, I don't know, what if these negative spirits come get me, like, then they're gonna come get you. I don't know. You just have
It
to,
don't have nothing to do
like,
with Ifa. It don't
you
have
said
nothing to do
what?
with Ifa. They coming to get you.
Right. That ain't got
Ifa.
nothing
That's
to do with
something
E5. That is you. Like, that is your, which I think a lot of people need to realize, is that when you have those negative things come, it's a part of you. It's something that has to do with you. It's not somebody else that done sent them to you. And no, that's something that you need to deal with, you know. So yeah, so my experience this far has been good. I don't have any horror stories. Um so yeah, I would say if you are honestly interested and you have an open mind and you are not fearful and you are actually ready, then, check it out. Just, you know, try get to learn more, cuz again, this is something that is from us, and so it doesn't have to be negative, or it shouldn't be seen as negative because it is from us.
for sure.
So, yeah, thank you
Absolutely.
for making me share that.
Yeah, I think that's important. Your experience.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
hands-on. I've done this stuff. I've touched it. I've
Right.
been into the water. I think
Yeah.
that just adds more credibility to you and the subject
Mhm.
into this video.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's my experience, and yeah. So thank you, Ia, for this conversation today and for what you shared.
You're so
Very, very
welcome.
grateful.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And is there anything else that you want to leave off with before we end?
Don't feel restricted. Don't feel if you feel trapped, you don't have to be trapped. There's something else calling for you. If you feel that way where you are, then maybe you're not at home.
Mm.
Maybe home is somewhere else for you. So pray about it, um, ask questions, research. But if you're someplace where you're not happy or don't feel like you're at home, then maybe it's time to look somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
There's always other options for you out here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You just want to be happy. You want to be happy in your life
Mm-hmm.
and find out your purpose. If you don't know those two things, if you don't have happiness and you don't know your purpose, you might need to still keep looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, y'all. So another amazing conversation. I hope that you learned some. I hope that you were able to take something away. And again, please remember that your refuge is in your self healing. So heal yourself to find your refuge. Okay. Peace.